The boardroom lights were dimmed except for the cold, sterile glare bouncing off the polished glass table. The faint hum of a vacuum cleaner was the only sound breaking the silence of a late evening in the towering glass skyscraper of Merit Global Holdings. A man in a faded blue janitor's uniform slowly swept the floor, his movements quiet and deliberate, careful not to disturb the important meeting that had just ended. His name was Daniel Brooks, a 38-year-old single father who had once been a linguistics teacher, before life, loss, and misfortune reduced his dreams to the echoes of memory and mop water. Daniel paused for a moment, gazing out the massive windows at the city below. The skyline glittered, each light a reminder of people chasing dreams while he was merely cleaning up after them. Yet, behind his wary brown eyes, there was something: intelligence, humility, and the quiet fire of someone who once believed in purpose. Before the story unfolds, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Everyday Keenness, where true stories of courage and heart remind us that goodness still shines in everyday people. That night, Daniel was assigned to clean the top floor, the executive suite, a level he rarely reached. As he pushed his cart toward the boardroom, muffled voices caught his attention. The meeting wasn't over after all. Inside, the CEO, Mr. Richard Merritt, a tall, silver-haired man in his 50s with an aura of command, sat with his team. Across from him was Kenji Takahashi, a visiting investor from Japan, accompanied by his translator, a young, confident man in a sleek gray suit. Daniel hesitated outside the door, unsure whether to enter. But the supervisor's words echoed in his head. "You finish the top floor before midnight, no excuses." He took a deep breath, quietly slipped in through the side door, and began working in the corner unnoticed. The translator was speaking, his voice smooth and practiced. "Mr. Takahashi appreciates your offer," he said, "but he finds it too generous. He insists your company should take more of the profit share." Daniel froze mid-sweep. That wasn't right. He had heard the Japanese words clearly, "takai dizu ning," which meant, "that's too expensive," not "too generous." His mind raced. Years ago, before his wife's passing, Daniel had taught Japanese and worked as an interpreter for international companies. The language wasn't just something he learned, it was something he loved. He wanted to ignore it, to keep his head down, finish the floor, and walk away. But as the conversation went on, the translator kept twisting words, subtly changing Mr. Takahashi's intent, manipulating the deal. Daniel's heart pounded. He knew what he was witnessing wasn't just mistranslation, it was deception. Finally, when the translator confidently summarized a false statement that could cost Merit Global millions, Daniel couldn't take it anymore. He put down his mop and said softly, "Excuse me, sir, that's not what he said." The room went silent. Every head turned toward him, the janitor. The CEO frowned, confused and slightly annoyed. "What did you say?" Daniel swallowed hard, his voice trembling but clear. "Mr. Takahashi said the proposal was too high, not too generous. Your translator's changing the meaning." The translator laughed nervously. "With all due respect, sir, this man is just a cleaner. He must have misheard." "But Mr. Takahashi raised his hand, studying Daniel with interest. "You understand Japanese?" he asked directly, his accent thick but his English precise. "Yes, sir," Daniel replied, fluently. "I used to teach it before I changed jobs." Kenji smiled faintly. "Then please, tell me, what did I just say?" And Daniel did, word for word, tone for tone, capturing the nuances that only a true linguist could hear. The politeness wrapped around firmness, the respect embedded in disagreement. When he finished, Mr. Merritt's expression hardened. He turned to the translator, whose face had gone pale. Moments later, security escorted the deceitful interpreter out. The room felt heavy, charged with both shame and awe. "Mr. Brooks," said the CEO slowly, "sit down, please." Daniel hesitated, unsure if he was in trouble or about to be thanked. He sat cautiously at the edge of a chair, a janitor sitting where board members had just debated billion-dollar contracts. Mr. Merritt folded his hands. "You just saved this company from a catastrophic deal." "How did you know?" Daniel explained. How he'd spent years studying languages, how he'd once dreamed of working in international relations. But after his wife passed from cancer, the hospital bills buried him in debt. He'd left teaching to take any job that would let him care for his daughter Sophie, a bright 8-year-old girl who was his entire world. There was a pause. The CEO leaned back thoughtful. "And now you're cleaning floors for us?" Daniel nodded, ashamed. "It pays the bills, sir. That's all that matters." Kenji Takahashi smiled again, this time warmly. In my country, he said, wisdom and humility are the highest forms of honor. You remind me of that. He then turned to Merritt. May I suggest we keep Mr. Brooks for translation, officially? The CEO chuckled softly. That's not a bad idea, but Daniel's eyes widened.
Sir, I can't just...
Mr. Brooks, Merritt interrupted gently, you've earned the chance to stand where you belong. If you can handle translation and cultural negotiations, the position is yours. Full-time, with benefits. Tears welled in Daniel's eyes. Thank you, sir. You don't know what this means. That night, when he got home, Sophie was waiting at the door, holding a crayon drawing of the two of them. Her daddy in his blue uniform, her in her school dress. You look tired, Daddy, she said softly. Did you have a good day? Daniel knelt, hugged her tight and whispered, the best day ever. He looked around their small apartment, peeling walls, old furniture, and for the first time he didn't see limitation. He saw the beginning of change. Over the following months, Daniel learned fast. His natural ear for languages and his integrity made him indispensable. Kenji Takahashi became both mentor and friend, helping him understand not just business but the cultural heart behind every deal. Merritt Global thrived under Daniel's input, and in time, he became the company's head of international communications. He never forgot where he came from. Every evening, he still greeted the janitorial staff by name. On Fridays, he and Sophie brought them donuts, because kindness, as Sophie said, makes work shine brighter. If this story touched your heart, remember to like, comment, and subscribe to Everyday Kindness, where stories of real courage, compassion, and unexpected miracles remind us that every act of goodness counts. Years later, Daniel stood once again in that same boardroom. The city lights twinkled below as he prepared for another international meeting. But this time, he wasn't the janitor standing in the corner. He was the man leading the discussion. As he adjusted his tie, he caught his reflection in the glass. The same brown eyes, but now filled with peace and purpose. He smiled and whispered to himself, sometimes, life sweeps you down to the floor just so you can see what really shines. And with that, Daniel Brooks, the single dad janitor who once dared to speak up for the truth, walked forward, not as a man defined by his job but by his heart. Because in the end, the greatest promotions in life don't come from power. They come from courage, honesty, and kindness.